Who is Donald Marshall? Ladies and gentlemen, that is a great question. You may have come across interviews of him on the internet, or you maybe have not even heard of him at all. Either way, the stuff that comes out of this man's mouth is crazier than your dreams could think of. So get your popcorn ready, because it's gonna be a bumpy ride. In this video, I will give you a brief outline of the man, the myth, and the legend of Donald Marshall. Is what all he says true, or is it all a bunch of baloney? Is it conspiracies, truth, or all lies? This truly is a fascinating wormhole. Make sure you watch this video until the end. There is an extremely important warning about Donald Marshall. The info may shock you, but believe it or not, it could actually save someone, or perhaps many lives. Donald Marshall, not to be confused with Donald Marshall Jr., a man convicted wrongfully of murder in Nova Scotia, Canada back in 1971. This Donald Marshall is also from a part of Nova Scotia, Canada, but is a horse of another color. I haven't done too much digging into his personal life, don't plan to either, but my guess is he is somewhere between the ages of 45 to 55 years old. For more information to grasp just who this Mr. Marshall is, do a Google search of Donald Marshall cloning or Donald Marshall revolution. That definitely will lead you to links dedicated to him. My discovery of Mr. Marshall started in 2020. The world was going conspiracy crazy, and I guess I was too. I went down numerous rabbit holes to eventually stumble upon an old interview of the man himself, Donald frickin' Marshall. I'll admit it had me intrigued, and I decided to dig deeper on the subject of human cloning. But eventually, after finding nothing but storytelling and no actual proof, I shrugged it off and moved on with my life until recently, when something surfaced on YouTube that baffled me. But we'll get into that later. Just let me explain to you now that I will definitely miss or leave out many details to this epic, psychedelic, and cinematic bumblefuck of a story. In December of 2011, a post appeared on Facebook by Marshall. It was extremely long, detailing him of being a child held captive by the Illuminati. In this great global conspiracy, Marshall exposes many major Illuminati players, including Queen Elizabeth, her husband Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Charles, and Russian President Vladimir Putin. He also names many other world leaders, politicians, and high-profile celebrities who were secretly involved. He claims his own parents sold him to the Illuminati at the age of 5. He said part of the deal was that his parents could have non-consensual sex with minors in exchange for him being cloned. The clone would then be the Illuminati's property to exploit for sexual, abusive, and personal gains. He's appeared in many interviews explaining his experiences, consisting of many conspiracy-like topics such as cloning, child trafficking, reptilian people, aliens, of course the Illuminati, and much more. He has a ton of elaborate stories and experiences at what he calls the cloning centers. He claims the Illuminati would rape and torture his clone at the centers while he was asleep, but still experiencing it all, as he feels and sees what his clone does in his dreams. He goes on how this is all possible with the technology the Illuminati possesses. He says one day they forced him to sing and write lyrics. They loved it and began to cut young Donald some slack on the abuse they gave him. He credits that to being the main reason they had not killed him yet and why he is still alive. Eventually, the Illuminati gave him nicknames like Jesus or the Jewish Messiah. Marshall claims he has written so many songs that he cannot remember all of them anymore. Well over 100,000 songs, and a majority of them are Billboard hits. He says he put clues in the songs usually pertaining to the torment he endured or experiences at the cloning center. He claims he has written many songs for artists and bands such as Metallica, Megadeth, Beyonce, Kenny Rogers, Pitbull, Miley Cyrus, The Offspring, 9 Inch Nails, The Eurythmics, Rihanna and many more. He says bands like Nirvana and Guns N' Roses would be nothing without him. He is responsible for all of their success. He claims this is his clone on the Megadeth album The World Needs a Hero. Okay. I know what some of you are thinking right now. Do people actually believe this crap? Yes. Yes, they do. In fact, there is a small army consistently growing in support of Donald Marshall. Many see him as a hero and they dedicate websites, blogs, and YouTube channels to him. They believe he is trying to save the world by exposing the Illuminati and their evil ways. They also want to free Donald Marshall from the torture he endures by the hands of the Illuminati. This just goes to show that many people will believe anything on the internet, especially some clever storytelling by their leader Donald Marshall. Hey, don't get me wrong, I would love to believe all of this stuff. And trust me, I've gone down many conspiracy holes in my past, and many seem convincing. I definitely think there is a lot more to the story about JFK's assassination than what we are told. As we speak, while making this video, they are releasing a lot more classified documents. But that's a whole different story. I do believe the world does have a lot of evil behind the scenes. And I do believe that sometimes conspiracies can contain a small nugget of the truth. But a lot of the time they usually get blown way out of proportion. One thing that amazes me about conspiracies is how easily people are prone to believing them without any proof. Meanwhile, the conspiracy spins wild on the internet, out of control, spreading around like a virus, still without any proof. And more people pay attention to it, and begin to believe it. It's a form of feedback looping, which I may get into in a future video. Many conspiracy theorists will tell you to not believe everything you read, and do not believe everything you see. This is true. This includes everything you see on TV, the internet, media, etc. Yet people tend to leave out conspiracies. Yes, conspiracies need to be added to the list, people. You probably should be the most skeptical with believing a conspiracy. Just saying. Many conspiracy theorists will also tell you to do your own research. Again, another thing most people fail to do. If you did, usually in a small amount of time you can debunk most conspiracies with simple web searches. You have to play both sides if you really want to be honest with yourself. That's just my opinion. But I usually end up undecided on most conspiracy topics. What do I think of Donald Marshall? Well, let's just say, I think it's a big load of bullshit. As far as I can see, there is really no proof to what Donald says anywhere on the internet. A lot of his followers claim that his writings, that can be purchased on the internet and viewed at websites detailing his experiences, claim to be the proof. But to me this is just storytelling and it's not actual proof. If you ask me, if there was evidence, I think it would be spread all over the internet. And I'm not talking about some rap video or some rapper talking about cloning, or some random video about some old man talking about how long cloning has existed. I'm talking about cold hard real evidence. Donald Marshall himself has in the past claimed that he would show evidence. You can see him in comments on the internet saying that he wants to take everyone down, not just one person, as if he is plotting it all patiently. But ladies and gentlemen, it's been over 10 years and Donald Marshall has not yet to prove anything. He also said that he would take a lie detector test in the past. To the best of my knowledge, he has not done that yet either. Conveniently, Donald Marshall no longer writes music for the Illuminati down in the cloning center. But somehow he is still alive, even after years and years of him telling us that it was the only thing that was keeping him alive. Writing music for the Illuminati. Let's talk about the music some more, shall we? If I get this straight, Donald's claimed that he has written over 100,000 songs. That easily would be more than the careers of Michael Jackson, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Madonna combined. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Marshall is a musical genius. Psych. I bet Wesley Willis would mop the floor with him. Basically, in a nutshell, I think this guy is pulling a fast one on his followers. There are too many holes in his story. It is way too far-fetched. I'll have to hand it to him though. He seems to have an answer for almost everything. From what I've read on the internet, he seems to get really offensive when someone questions his legitimacy. He really thinks he's some sort of hero or leader. But if you ask me, the world already has too many false heroes, including plenty of our politicians and celebrities, plenty of empty promises, and you can add Mr. Marshall to that list, as he has promised the world he would expose the most dangerous evildoers that walk our earth. Yet he hasn't, has he? It's been over 10 years and all we get is more stories. Some other skeptics believe that he may be up to a social experiment with all of us, or even making a movie. The more you dig into it, it seems like a script you would see in a movie. But nah, I think he's hardcore trolling. He likes the power of people believing his BS. If I'm wrong, then prove me wrong. I urge you to show me real, solid proof. And I also urge his followers to question everything Marshall says. There are plenty of ways he could prove it, if it were true. I know I may piss some people off with this video, but that's not my intention. My intention is for people on the fence, people who are considering on believing all these stories, to not believe everything you read or see. And plus, I hate being lied to. But that's not the only reason I made this video. The main reason is to warn people, to warn folks that Marshall's conspiracies and others can sometimes be very dangerous. About 6 months ago, I came across a video that was posted on YouTube on May 2nd, 2022. The video was posted by a man named Robert Hurtado and was titled, "Here We Go. I'm spilling everything now. Cloning Center and my new lease on life. Thanks a lot." The video is about 8 minutes long. In it he goes on to explain how he is a clone, how he has been 3D printed, how he now feels like a robot. He also says he was abducted in 2017 by Millie Bobby Brown and Jake Bon Jovi, who are now a celebrity couple. They murdered him a few times at the cloning center, and other crazy stuff. But in 2017, Millie and Jake would have been around 11 and 13 years old, and they actually never even met each other until around 2020. So his whole story about that seems bizarre. He also name drops Donald Marshall in the video, claims that Marshall spilled the beans better than anyone else, referring to cloning. It's very clear that this man is suffering from mental delusions. The video is still currently on YouTube. This wouldn't really be of much substance to anything really until a tragedy struck the very next day. News reports emerged of a Fresno man who deliberately lit his brother's house on fire. The brother had left for work and Robert started the house on fire with gasoline, knowing he had family members inside. Sadly, the fire took the lives of his 18-month-old niece and 5-month-old nephew. He also doused his sister-in-law with gas and lit her on fire as she attempted to run out of the house. Luckily, she ran to a nearby neighbor's house for help and survived. She was badly burned and hopefully made a good recovery. After being apprehended by police, Robert admitted to starting the fire on purpose but didn't state a reason. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why dumbass conspiracies can be extremely dangerous. Now, I know Donald Marshall doesn't condone someone going and killing their family members, but I cannot help but to feel that Marshall somewhat has blood on his hands in the mass of this unfortunate tragedy. But he doesn't seem to care much. He's just here to continue his motive. And I know Marshall probably will never be criminally punished for this tragedy, but it just goes to show that the spreading of these off-the-wall conspiracies can be devastating when engulfed by the wrong people. Robert Hurtado clearly had mental issues, and so does Mr. Marshall. That has been proven. But Marshall will always play the victim if you consider him as crazy. He will also say any doctor or authority is compromised if they don't align with his story. No matter how you feel about anything in this video, no matter if you believe Donald or not, You have to understand that the only single thing that has become of Donald Marshall and his conspiracies is making people believers in his story. Nothing has been accomplished since he has started. Most likely nothing will ever be accomplished. In the span of over 10 years, he has not gotten a single person incarcerated for a single crime. Out of thousands that happen in the cloning centers, or the millions that happen in the real world every day, he has not had one single, dirty, no good, Illuminati, scumbag, evil person locked up. Just think about that for a while. He's no whistleblower, he's no hero, but we definitely could use one sometimes, couldn't we? Thank you for tuning into Channel 8 and watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing my content. I promise you it would be greatly appreciated. Until next time, peace and Patrice. Sach Moelle.